Hey there, Heather. Hello there. It's Jeff Carter. I welcome you to another Degrassi poll video. And this poll video is about who were the best faculty members in Degrassi history. Now, I know the show focused a lot on the kids, but faculty usually helps out in all that. So I did 3 polls, and I tried to put 6 people in each poll. Like I did the same era. I did the Emma era from 1 to 7, Claire's era from 8 to 14, and Maya's era 15 plus, or next class, if you will. Um, there were a few pieces that I didn't see, and I struggled to find faculty members that I didn't know. So I just basically told everyone that if you know of a faculty member, you then just write it down and all that. So yeah, so that's what I did. And the fact of the matter was that I ended up only having 12 faculty members. Now, maybe thinking, wait a minute, if you had 6, and whatever, that's more than that. Well, here's the thing: there were multiple characters in multiple eras. Like Simpson was the media teacher for basically Emma's era, and then he became principal in season 10 onwards. And then you also have the fact that, um, like Perino was in multiple things, and Hatzalakos even was. Well, Hatzalakos was the science teacher and then became principal in season 4, and then she was principal in season 9, like for one season in the Claire era, but she still was principal. That counts. Obviously, I guess I didn't put Pill down as an option. Damn. I forgot all about Pill, like being a faculty member. But I also had 6 people there on the list. So I'll interject Pill into one of the yeah. All right, so here's the list from 12 to 1. Okay, just gotta get the fingers thing working because yeah, that's right. All right, so number 12 on the list was the Shep, Principal Season 8. Well, it wasn't that hard to see that this would actually be last place on my list. So anyway, the Shep had problems. He was in season 8 after Hatzalakos left to go deal with her alien mother in Regina. So all of a sudden, the school now is in Shep's hands. What we learned from like Degrassi Wiki and all that was that he was the principal at Lakehurst before it burned down in season 7, forcing Lakehurst and Degrassi to merge. So basically, the Shep came in, and it seemed that he had some biases. He called Holly J a hotload number, gave her the student presidency, even though the staff said there should have been an election. Staff was made vice president to basically shut him up. But he also had issues with people who were different. Well, Jane got harassed while trying to be on the school's first football team ever. Shep didn't protect her, and basically Shep said everything would be fine. But then causing a commotion happens, and that was when Connor gets diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, the same condition I suffer from. And basically Claire tries to help out. Now, I think a lot of Degrassi fans figured that Claire was going to be just like Emma and taking up lots of causes and all that. But that didn't really happen with Claire. They broke the mold, and basically Claire did have a relationship, kind of what Emma was with Sean in the first season, like, dating a bad boy, even though she's a good girl. Like, Claire and Casey. But Claire ends up breaking off with Casey. Well, Casey runs off with Jenna instead of Claire. And Claire didn't really do too many causes. So yeah, the Shep was getting Teacher of the Year, which is like, what the hell? How did Shep get Teacher of the Year? I mean, he was only principal for a few months. It just doesn't make sense. A lot of people said because he put a football team in Degrassi. Ooh la la, Sassoon. But my personal theory is that the school board didn't want to re-vote, and also they probably wanted to give Degrassi a break because, Degrassi was really not that good. So my theory is that they basically gave it to Shep only because they were going to give it to Hatzalakos, and with her gone, they had to give it to somebody at Degrassi, and Shep earned it. It should have been Armstrong or Perino. Sadly, though, the Shep gets it, but when he does his video saying how good he was as principal of the year, basically Claire's conversation in which Shep calls her a little bitch happens, and then the school walks out on him. Shep doesn't get fired; he just gets put in sensitivity. But basically, by the second half of the school year, or season 9, if you will, he's out the door, and Hatzalakos comes back. I think Hatzalakos also comes back to deal with Peter, who ends up taking drugs to try to get into Mia's inner modeling circle. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, and I can't believe I said number 12 because, well, sorry. I'm going to make number 12. So Shep is 13. Mr. Mitchell is number 12. And you'll be thinking, who? Well, he was English teacher from seasons 15 to 18. I know you could also say Mr. Yates and all that, but Mr. Yates would be really hated on. But basically, I didn't even add Mr. Olander, which ticks me off. So yeah, so Perino, sorry, no, but Mr. Mitchell was the English teacher for a while. And, he was okay and all that. I didn't know much about Mr. Mitchell because I didn't really watch Next Class. So, yeah. All right, so I'm going to put Pill at number 11, just above Mr. Mitchell. Now, the reason why Pill is on the list, well, she was the principal season 14 when everything went back to normal. We went for shit after Degrassi nudes. So Simpson was on his way out. Pill took over and assured that the school will be back to normal. She came into school with different policies and all that. No cell phones or backpacks. And all that. To try to prevent privacy problems. But the fact of the matter was that 2 policies ruined her. First policy was the cameras in the hallways. Okay, fine, cameras in the hallways in schools, that's fair. But then she puts the audio to it and basically listens in on students' conversations and tries to help students out so that she can feel like she's doing a good job and all that. The problem with that is when Claire miscarries and she doesn't tell Pill about what happened to her, and Pill talks to her about it. She's like, well, how did you know? And then she finds out about the cameras. So the cameras have the audio in it. It's like, that's invasion of privacy. And when Claire tries to be valedictorian, Claire basically blasts Pill for her policies and then busts up the cameras, getting her a big suspension and stripping her of her student council vice presidency. But Claire did this cause for good and all that. And then, of course, comes the no affection policy when Drew gets embarrassed when Becky doesn't have his proposal. So basically, she throws the book at Drew, who's her student council president, and says that you can't go to prom. So Drew hangs out with his parents, with his mom, and basically Drew takes it like a man. Unfortunately, though, Audra tells her son that he needs to say prom because after Dallas misbooked the boat was docked for a year later than it was expected. So Drew, using his key codes and getting stuff from the school, decides to throw the prom. I originally thought it was at the school, but it was actually at the dot. And he kind of saves it. Unfortunately, Pill is not too pleased and tells Drew, were there any co-conspirators? Drew leaves Dallas out of it and says, no, just me. And then Pill says, well, congratulations. You're not going up on stage. You'll get your diploma, but you won't be on stage. And he's like, why? I have to enforce these rules because I need to have the school know what's going to happen to me and all that. So basically, Drew takes it. But Audra is proud that Drew stood up, did some stuff, and stood up. The seniors, with their caps, say, we love Drew. And Pill relents, saying that the school stands up for each other. So Drew goes on stage, gets his diploma, yippee. And then season 15 comes along. I originally thought that after the that season 14 movie. It was just basically to tie up loose ends at Degrassi. But then Tristan says there's a new class coming in. I'm like, damn it, they won't let it die. So season 15 comes back, and Simpson's back. Figures of it. There are a lot of theories why Simpson was back. The fact of the matter is that Simpson was back because he didn't know much about Degrassi nudes. And so the school board did the investigation and found out that he wasn't responsible for anything, that his inattentiveness was just him. So they let him back in. I also think that there was also the fact about Pill, like, telling Drew these things. And Pill probably forgetting that Audra was part of the school board and would tell her higher ups. And that would sink Deidre Pill. I think Pill, well, she knew she was in for being temporary, but she was trying to impress everyone by being the one who will win out the principalship. Sadly, though, I can't. All right, so next on the list at number 10 is Raditch. Now, I was actually shocked that Raditch got higher up than most people. I thought everyone would be mad at Raditch and all that. But no, you got 40 votes in the B tier poll out of 249. I should say that Shep only got 5 votes. Mitchell got 15. But yeah, Raditch got 40. That's not bad. Raditch snuck it into the top 10. That's pretty good. So anyway, Raditch was an English teacher in Degrassi Junior High and then transferred to Degrassi High to be vice principal. And then by the time we saw them again in Next Generation, he was principal of community school, Degrassi CC. CS, sorry. So yeah, he was okay in the first season, not really that prominent. Season 2 was when he and Emma went to war over genetically modified foods and freedom of speech. Basically, Emma wouldn't buckle from Raditch, and Emma said she'd rather be suspended for a while from Raditch than to, let her free speech thing down. I mean, Emma is at fault too, in a sense, about her actions in Fight for Your Right. But Raditch basically was just this guy who seemed to be jaded and all that. And I think he suspended Emma trying to get the students to play his way. So anyway, season 3, he puts lots of people in Saturday detentions for their crimes. Sean for belittling him and maybe for stealing the stuff from Degrassi. I mean, Sean did steal it to impress the Candy Bandits. Ellie for cutting class, although it was later found out that Ellie purposely did that so that she could get a newspaper story for her co-op. Idiot. Toby and Jimmy were caught trying to change Jimmy's grades on the computer. Toby did that because he wanted Jimmy's friendship. And Hazel got in trouble for looking at illegal sites and all that. All punishable offenses, even suspendable in Toby and Jimmy's case. But basically, yeah, Degrassi wanted to do a Breakfast Club thing. And it played Raditch to the hilt that he's basically this out-of-touch person. Although Raditch does warm up, and then somehow he tells Hazel it's a Swiss ball from Switzerland. I thought he was more learned than that. Unfortunately, though, he seemed mean and all that. He needed to back down. Simpson made him back down a little bit. But season 4 is when Raditch was just not that great of a guy. Raditch's role in the Rick Murray situation can't be denied. Like, he is a villain in a sense, but not a super villain. Like, it's up to your own interpretation what a villain is. But to me, a villain is someone who was really mean to Rick and wouldn't let Rick have anything going for him. That's why, in that vernacular, I mean, Raditch was not tormenting Rick. He just left Rick high and dry at the worst possible time. And then Alex Spinner and Jay got to Rick. They're more of a villain than Rick. Well, Rick's a villain too. But yeah, Raditch it just ended up being the end. The school board basically cut him loose. They reassigned him. They could have fired him, but I think the reassignment was kind of a way of shutting up Raditch because maybe the school board did want to get rid of Raditch, but because it was on their own egos, they knew that Raditch would probably sneak back and sue them, so they basically reassigned Raditch. And in my headcanon, he didn't take the reassignment well, and he went to California to do Chop Cut Rebuild. Really. So anyway, number 9 with 49 votes. Oops, forgot to do this. Number 9 with 49 votes was Perino, who was generally around from seasons 4 to 18. I'm surprised he lasted all the way to the end. And all of a sudden, it seemed to me that, he was kind of a bully. Perino basically told Emma to not have any bad feelings. You know about the Rick Murray situation, that Emma wasn't moving on? It says that Emma, we all can get past this shooting. You should too. And Emma doesn't say a thing. That's how out of touch Emma is. I would have slammed Perino into a locker and gave him a couple of stomach blows for his bullshit. So anyway, Perino didn't really seem to care much. He bullied Derek and Danny, and then Simpson had to step in and basically told Perino off. Perino was in and out after season 8 and all that. He kind of changed in a sense, but, he was still a little bit strict. I think for the students' own good. Number 8? Yeah, number 8 is art teacher Dawes from seasons 10 and 11. And I'm like, wow, this was actually one of the 2 suggestions of people who were in, Dawes and Mr. Mitchell. So art teacher Dawes is more known for making people their creative sides. Maybe Holly J, I think. And then for LARPing with Anya, when Anya went through her LARPing phase. I guess after Sav broke her off for his arranged marriage. So anyway, our teacher Dawes was a decent person, from what I'm guessing. And number 7 on the list is Miss O from seasons 10 to 14, Media/English. I think she lasted that long. I think she lasted a few seasons, shorter than I thought. But yeah, Miss O was part of the Claire era. She was a decent media person after Simpson was promoted to being principal. And she was also an English teacher too. Miss O's biggest thing was having a relationship with Sav, which was weird that Sav would actually have a relationship with her. And, a lot of student-teacher relationships go out the door. Paige and Olander, for example. Well, Olander was a student teacher. I think that's why I didn't put him in the faculty thing, because he was a student teacher, technically. And I think Yates was too. But anyway, Miss O had a relationship with Sav. Sav ended up graduating. Not too many people knew about it. And I think Miss O kept her job. So that was kind of weird. All right, so now it's time for the top 6. The 6 people you really wanted to know. There was a clear-cut winner, actually, and a clear-cut 6th place. But here we go. Number 6 on the list was Miss Grell, the guidance counselor from seasons 15 to 18, aka the next class. The new class era. Yeah, next class. With only 3 of the 258 votes. Kind of pathetic, don't you think? But anyway, 3 votes. So Miss Grell was basically known for being a good guidance counselor, trying to help Maya with her depression and all that. She was featured mostly in the finale when she's alerted by Maya about Esme's problems. And she actually calms down Esme, saying it's not too late to admit help. And Esme cries in Grell's arms. Number 5 with 16 votes was Hatzilakos, who was science teacher and then moved to principal between seasons 2 and 9. So Hatzilakos was a science teacher who JT crushed on, and JT would get in trouble for mocking her. But she basically sees something that JT can be so much better, and JT figures that way too. So Hatzilakos helps JT deal with stuff. And she's a science teacher, and she did okay. There was a deleted scene from season 3 in which she was kissing Raditch. It's like, what the fuck? I guess Raditch was unmarried. Married to his job, maybe. But anyway, Hatzilakos ended up being just a decent teacher. And then season 4, she gets propped up to principal once Raditch is forced out. She does tell Marco and Manny. Manny was in Paige's spot because Paige was distracted with Olander, and tells Marco and Manny, we need ideas on how to deal with the aftermath of the Rick Murray situation. So she does a very good job keeping the school in line. She does expel Spinner, but she had no choice. Spinner and Jay were expelled. Alex never got found out. And, that's big. So anyway, Simpson aside. So Hatzilakos was a pretty good principal. Unfortunately, Hatzilakos had a few major flaws as principal, especially kissing Simpson in the middle of his midlife crisis in season 5. And she also was a little too lenient on Peter, if you ask a lot of fans. Like, we found out that Peter was Hatzilakos' kid in the season 5 premiere when, Manny got in trouble because Peter sent her topless photo out. And it's like, wow, how the hell is she letting Peter do this? I think she punished Peter in a sense, but she only gave him detention. It's like, what the fuck, man? Season 6, she tries to take Peter down. Well, Peter got in trouble for street racing with Sean, and he was put under house arrest. Hatzilakos said that, it's for the best. Peter is not too happy about it, but Peter sneaks out and meets Emma and all that. Hatzilakos finds out that Peter is at the dance, saying, Peter Michael Stone, PMS, what? Does house arrest not mean anything to you? I think that Peter may have weaseled himself out by blaming Emma for things. I think that's the only way through. Hatzilakos didn't have the complete balance of being a good principal and a good mother. Like, trying to be both a principal and a mother is not that easy. Because you have to deal with kids and all that. And don't really have time for your own kid. That's why Peter becomes scum. But I think Peter's scum because of his dad. So yeah, Hatzilakos managed to get Jay and Silent Bob to do a movie at Degrassi and all that. It was amazing. And then she left in season 7 because of her mother not feeling too well. Hatzilakos did a good job keeping Lakehurst and Degrassi in unison by promising both schools that they would have separate graduation ceremonies and proms. So anyway, she left for Regina after season 7 and came back in season 9 to deal with Peter and his drug problems, and then left the keys to the car, if you will, to Simpson for season 10. Okay, so number 3 on the list is another female teacher, Miss Sauvé, who was the guidance counselor from seasons 1 to 10. I found that out on Degrassi Wiki. But yeah, Miss Sauvé was pretty good. Well, she had 20 votes. She was very good. She was a good guidance counselor. She helped Ellie deal with her cutting problems through Paige. She was there for Paige when she finally decides to tell on somebody about being raped in season 2. And it seemed that Sauvé had some testimony, but it didn't help Paige out. I don't know why. Sauvé also was prominent in trying to deal with maybe Craig's problems. I don't remember. Yeah, but Sauvé tried to tell Sean to say how he feels about Rick's death and all that. It seemed to me she wanted to see if Sean was guilty about things. She had her great moments and all that. I think she had to deal with Darcy. I think she had to deal with Emma's problems off screen. Yeah, she was a good guidance counselor. All that. People could trust her. But Sylvia's number 4. Did I accidentally give her number 3? Sorry about that. Number 3 is Armstrong. I think I gave Hatzilakos. So anyway, number 3 is Armstrong, who was the gym and math teacher from seasons 1 to 18. So he was there for the whole run, which was unbelievable. His longevity was huge. But yeah, Mr. Armstrong was a very good phys ed teacher, and he was a good coach of basketball. He threw Jimmy off the team because Jimmy would rather be all about the individual than the team when he takes Spinner's Ritalin pill and all that. He's a very good coach and all that. He came to prominence in season 1 when he was accused of putting his hands on Liberty in a way that Emma misjudged it. Sexual tension. I mean, Emma did have a little bit of a problem because, remember, she nearly got catfished by someone in that position in season 1. It turned out that Armstrong was innocent the whole time. That it was just innocent because Liberty had dyscalculia, and Emma saved the day by saying that she made a mistake. But yeah, Armstrong was a very good teacher. In season 4, he blasted Radish for not giving him the money for the supplies he needs. And Radish says it's not really in the budget. But don't worry, you're on my list. And Armstrong needed them. Armstrong was pretty good and all that. He managed to get Coach Carson arrested for trying to grope Casey and all that. So yeah, so Armstrong did very well. He lasted to the end. That surprised me a lot. Number 2 is Miss Kwan with 57. The Wrath of Kwan, if you will. That's how Spinner puts it. So anyway, she was English teacher for, I guess, the Emma era. I don't know if she branched out after season 7, but anyway, yeah. She was tough but fair. Like, she wanted her students to do well. So basically, she was the reincarnation of Degrassi Junior High Radich, who was an English teacher, was tough but fair. Joy didn't see it that way, but she was okay. It's just like Spinner. Like, they recycled that idea. Spinner not liking Quan, all that. Spinner is furious with Quan getting on his case about things, so he eggs her car with Jimmy's help. Quan goes through a rest period in season 1 because she's got her husband sick. She's been working at night school and all that. She's been working hard and all that, and she just broke down. Spinner Jimmy did kind of feel guilty for her. She was the voice of reason and all that to do with a lot of things and all that. Season 4, she sent Spinner to the principal's office for trying to destroy Rick. Seemed like that was the only time that happened on screen. But Quan was a very sensitive teacher, but she knew what she had to do. And number 1, by a long shot, with 122 votes, or to put it plainly, he had double the votes of second place, was Simpson. Of course, it had to be Snake. It had to be, with 122 votes. So Simpson started off life as the media teacher for the first 9 seasons and all that. So Simpson was a very good teacher, having to deal with things. And then he decides to date Spike in season 2, despite Emma's objections, because she thinks that, her mom's dating her teacher. There could be messiness. But Snake assures Emma that things are going to be great. And Emma accepts their courtship and allows them to get married in a sense. Snake was responsible in the fight for your right thing, in a sense, because with Spike being out of town, he basically told Emma that, your problems with Radich, you can figure it out. As an educator, I can't really help you. But as a parent, I'm all for your plan. So, yeah, it's complicated that, Snake couldn't really show his true colors. Like, as a parent, he's okay with it. But as an educator, he has to keep an eyeball. He doesn't want to piss off Radich. So he's a good teacher and all that. He gets leukemia in season 3, misses some time, and then comes back. Emma worries about him, but sure enough, he's fine. Snake also shows his good side as a parent, especially with Emma trying to find Shane. But that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to find the best faculty member. So when you talk about teaching, so he taught some good stuff and all that. Season 4, he's head of the Whack Your Brain team and sets it up with Toby, Jimmy, Emma, and Rick to be in the competition. Of course, Heather St. Clair was out due to mono, and Jimmy was put in her place. Snake had some misgivings about Radich's handling of Rick whatsoever and ignoring him. And they had a couple of clashes, but Radich basically said, I'm boss around here. I think Snake may have had a hand in getting rid of Radich, saying that basically, I like the guy, I know the guy, but I just don't think he's doing a good job. And add to the fact that Snake and Radich had a bumped into each other, mostly in Degrassi High. You know that episode when Claude killed himself and Snake found Claude's body? He runs to Radich, and they both talk about it and run towards the bathroom. It's poignant. And it's weird how Snake and Radich bumped into each other. Again, in the Rick Murray situation. This time, Radich is a bigger authority figure than Snake. And they're both teachers, and there's problems afoot. Yeah, Snake cheating on Spike with Hatzelackles. Not in Snake's character. So yeah, so Snake was a good character, was a good teacher and all that. He did tell Emma as a teacher that she needed to calm down to deal with her situation, and that her problems with Lakers are not because of Lakers, it's because of Manny. Because she's losing Manny as an ally. I mean, if Manny had listened to Emma's diatribes and all that in the aftermath of JT's death, I think Emma would have calmed down. But no. But anyway, yeah, Simpson was embarrassed to have Emma do a sex presentation in season 6. Simpson kind of asked for it, but Emma could have done it in private. So anyway, notwithstanding, he actually was temporary principal in season 8 after the chef got in trouble for stuff and was sent to sensitivity camp for 2 weeks. So basically, Simpson reinstates Connor, who was expelled by Shep. And he does a good job until the chef comes back. And then Simpson's given the chance to be principal in season 10, and he's happy. Unfortunately, season 10 kind of saw what kind of a suck up he seems to be. He's in trouble for not dealing with Riley hazing Drew enough, especially with Drew's mom being on the school board and trying to force her way into Simpson's head. Simpson gets in trouble over the Vegas night fiasco, but cracks down hard, really hard. Basically, there were a lot of students who didn't do good things on Vegas night, but basically he punished the whole school. No extracurriculars. You have to wear uniforms. There'll be cameras and a police officer everywhere. Yeah. So yeah, he forced his hand. He was trying to save his job. Like, it just shows how shallow he seemed to be. But however, after a few years, he decided to cut things down a bit. He introduced the rubber room for students who were struggling. All that. Unfortunately, Simpson had to deal with a few major issues. Season 12, with Cam's death, he suspended Cam for a week because of his actions towards Sig at the Spirit event. I mean, fair enough. I mean, Cam didn't help his case. But then after Cam died and all that, Simpson probably felt guilty about not knowing Cam's problems and maybe thinking that if he had helped Cam out, this would not have happened. But he did calm Eli down. Remember, Eli was the first person to saw that body and told Eli that he saw Claude's dead body and he knows what Eli is going through and could relate. And then season 13, he had to deal with Zoe and Maya's rivalry. Zoe slut-shamed Maya online. Maya writes a song about Zoe. Maya gets suspended for a while. And, Maya has a chance to get Zoe back, but Maya's mom said it's not worth it. Basically, Zoe used her celebrity to get on Simpson's nerves. And I think Zoe's mom got on Simpson's nerves too. Simpson wasn't too pleased with Maya and put her in the rubber room for a while. However, he changed things up. He seemed to be a fun-loving principal, but, he started becoming a little bit jaded, all for sucking up to the school board. He didn't have much knowledge of the Degrassi Nudes thing that got him booted in season 14. And then once next class came back, he came back. I think he learned his lesson. But the problem with Simpson was season 16 when, two things in next class. Season 16 when he basically had issues with the racism thing because everyone in school was mad that Frankie got kicked off the volleyball team and getting in trouble for her racist poster of Northern Tech. And Snake just basically said during Throwback Thursday that she's kicked out of the volleyball team, that's good enough. And how dare you suspend Tiny for defending Lola and giving him a 5-day suspension. And, Paige and Marco say that, suspensions of non-white students are a little too harsh. So Simpson's trying to juggle the Throwback Thursday stuff with probably a protest against his policies and not willing to talk about it. I mean, Lola and Shay said, we just want to talk about it. Finally, Snake decides to let the gauntlet go and just say, fine, well, let's talk. Let's do whatever you want to do. Simpson at least comes to his senses. Now, a lot of people probably think that Tristan's behavior in Throwback Thursday was Simpson responsible for it. Possibly, but Tristan was trying to impress Holly J. So I think it's both sides of the coin, yes. Yes and no. But anyway, Simpson's biggest mistake in my mind, besides the fact that he only got one episode in season 18, which was the freaking finale, is that, I come to a theory that he basically is a little too lenient on the Hollingsworth kids, especially with Miles burning the school, one of his dad's campaign posters when he tries to become mayor in season 14, and burns a portion of the school. And also Frankie and the racism thing. And let's not forget Hunter and the fact that he wanted to go after Maya for destroying his gamer club. But thankfully, Miles and Simpson intercept him. And Simpson tells him that Hunter that bringing a gun to the school is no good because of what happened to Rick Murray. So it seemed to me that he was hesitant to punish the three students. It could possibly be because, as Hollingsworth is mayor, he can set into motion something to the school board or the school itself that would harm Simpson. And maybe, Simpson had to suck up to him, as usual. So that's just my theory on it. Simpson was a pretty good media teacher, but when he became principal, he became hit and miss a lot. So that's just my opinion. Hopefully you enjoyed that opinion. Anyway, I'm Jill Diamond. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.